So the subsequent part, or the last part of this interview would come from, emails. And this has been a burden to a lot of applicants back home. So Prof, please, what triggers you to reply on known emails? I will share my experience that part of the reasons that made me choose here because you were receptive. You responded, and that alone was very welcoming to me. So what triggers you to reply a student email, an unknown email from a Gmail account, not an official email? What triggers you?
That's a very good point, and I am laughing about it because I still haven't sent you my bill for responding to the letter of recommendation, the letter responding to your letter. Well, there are many reasons why I respond. Students write me from Africa. Some countries from Africa, and mostly from West Africa as well. I think they look at my name and they say, this must be a nice guy, or this guy must be a fool, he's going to respond to us. But in any case, I respond to their letters because of two reasons. First, I remember how I also found a university here in the first place when I was a very, very young person. As a youthful person. Secondly, I am also of the opinion and of the belief that I need to be able to do something for others. And doing something doesn't always mean directly, you can also do that indirectly. My response to cold emails is basically to contribute a little bit and find a path for students to be able to say, I know somebody there, and perhaps this somebody would be able to forward my letter in turn to somebody else. And so whenever I respond to emails, what I do is respond to the individual, but make a copy to either to the economics department or whatever department, or the graduate school. That way I connect the individuals. Now, there are individuals who are impatient. I respond to them. I don't respond immediately, perhaps, but I respond to them. And then within a few days, I say, why didn't you respond? Why didn't you do this? Well, I've got other things to do as well. But that's not the only thing. Sometimes in their expression, in their desire to be able to convince me to respond, they become a little bit too forceful. That is not necessary. You don't have to do that. Again, this is a privilege because my job is not to respond to those emails or anyone else within the university. It is to assist. So I respond to students because I want to contribute. I want to do something for them. And because that was my own personal experience over 50 some years ago, when I decided that I wanted to go to the United States as a student.
Right. So that is so interesting. So Prof came here as you're also seeking to come here for his undergrad, grad, and also now he's a Professor Laureate. So, as a way of helping. So you shouldn't come in with that entitlement spirit. So I think you've already seen whatever you want to see. But Prof, please, so will you specifically highlight, aside the entitlement issue, myself, I also, sorry to say, hate that thing. They will come to your DM, deep, like I'm putting pressure on you. You've not responded to me. Get back to me. And it becomes so annoying when you have other things to respond, and you've also structured your schedule. So specifically, what are some of the tenors that you can also, highlight, aside the entitlement, their way of expressing their self, themselves and stuff?
Two things are important. Students are not likely to, these are young people, are not likely to communicate the way I would communicate. I realize that. The second is that there may be deficiencies in language in the way we communicate. So you have to keep that in mind. But in terms of tone, okay, people will forgive you in terms of language abilities and so forth. And in terms of not knowing how to communicate. But in terms of tone, there's no excuse, because number one, you don't know the person whom you're writing to, so you have no beef against that individual or anger. It shouldn't be. And number two, you're asking for a favor. When you ask for a favor, it's not good to be able to, shoot at the sun, and when you're really looking at trying to find some heat. And so in that way, be diplomatic as much as possible, and be patient, because your emergency cannot be the same for another person. It's not somebody else's emergency. You may wish to get out of a particular country within the next month, but that's your emergency, but not somebody else whom you're writing to. I think it's always, in any communication, I think it's always best to communicate politely, make your point as direct as you can, and third, be patient when you do it. Those are the three things I would like to suggest.
That's interesting. All right, okay.
Sure. One more thing that I think would be useful to talk about here. Most of the students, foreign students, as I did, would like to get admitted to an Ivy League school. There are a handful of Ivy League schools in the United States. It's very, very difficult, even for people that are in the United States, to get into those schools. So be realistic about your own ability. Be realistic about where you can go. Be realistic about what sort of funding you're likely to get, if you ever get any. So be realistic in your expectations. Your degree, as I said earlier, may be very important to you, but in the conception of other people, it may not be that important to them. And so I think there are classes of universities in the United States. There are land-grant institutions, and there are institutions that are called Association of Universities. They're called ASCU universities. These are state universities as well. State universities have contributed significantly to the development of the United States, more than you would know. So they're very good places to apply to. I'm talking about the public institutions here. Now, there are also private institutions. Private institutions may be easier to get into, but funding would be extremely difficult. Remember, every state university in the United States gets funds from the state government. Okay, the state government, the government in which they're located, in the state that we're located in. So most of these funds come through government grants and so forth. So make sure you understand that.
Okay, Prof, I think the last but one issue that I would want to tackle is the issue of will you say that when you see a professional email, you would be, triggered to view that email compared to just, an email from a Gmail account? Do you value that, or do you really consider that during your email review?
Actually, when I look at my emails, I look at the sincerity of the individual. Okay. I get all kinds of emails, but the sincerity expressed in that email tells me quite a bit about that individual, and that I conclude on my own whether that is an individual I need to respond to or not. If the focus is, for example, if the focus is, listen, I have gone to this school, I have done this, and I would like to study this, then that becomes an added incentive for me to open it, to open that mail. And in the case of one individual that I know, they have looked at some of the work that I have done, and he decided to tell me that he wants to be able to do something similar, or at least participate or work with me on some things. I took that as a sincere way of approaching me, and my gracious response to the email.
Yeah, so that will lead us to the conclusion. So I will let Prof conclude, giving us tips as a later part. But Prof, so I want you to stress or let them understand that reaching out to professors does not mean that you want to go and beg them to pay your tuition fees as I know some people are doing, they just reach out, hello professor, I'm applying to this school, I don't have funds, give me funds. I know there are schools that they let you reach out to get supervisors, they are there, but just give them the general idea why they should reach out. You've already explained everything, but your final tips as to why they should try when reaching out, your final tips on reaching out to professors, how they should go about it, and also the general application, any advice that you think you missed now you want to share with them, then we just end it there.
Yeah. I think the key is to, as I said earlier, is to be realistic. Not every individual is going to be funded, not because there are also domestic or local students that are vying for the same funds that international students applying to this institution would like to get. And so the competition is very severe, actually. There is sincerely quite heavy competition for these funds, and it also depends on the total budgets available. Institutions in the United States the last 2 years have gone through significant downscaling of budget issues, and so it depends on total funds available. But be reasonable, be realistic about what is available. Just because you're a nice person, it doesn't mean you will be funded. It depends on the circumstances of where the institution is. But if you cannot, in some way, be able to bear the cost, some of the cost of your education, I don't think it's a good idea to go overseas, because it can be very, very difficult. You cannot work as a student in the United States. And if you come here as a student and do not go to school, you'll be deported. That's the rule here. And the rules do not get waived. You will be in more trouble. And if you get deported, you cannot come back. There are all these kinds of situations. So be realistic. If you get some kind of support, that's what I call it, some kind of support from the institution, make sure you line up other funds from local funds that somebody may be able to provide to you, whether parents or relatives or somebody that is in the United States that is available and willing to help you. Now, sometimes individuals do support individual students.
That's right.
But those are very, very rare, given all kinds of conceptions that go on out there. Number one, you have to know that individual, and number two, you have to be willing to support that person. Now, but once you get here in the country and you find some individuals out on the street that is willing to help provide assistance, I am not saying that that is out of the question. It's possible, but extremely rare, extremely rare. Be realistic about what your expectations are.
All right. So thank you so much, Prof, for passing through to share. I think this is going to be a very phenomenal and, let me say, quote unquote historical video concerning education abroad, because we've been discussing over the years our experience as students, but you sharing with us, your experience as administrator, as a coordinator, department chair, and also to the highest level, provost. We've learned a lot from you. So I think with some time, I'll be hosting Prof, if possible, for those who are already here, those who are already studying here, how you went through your undergrad, how you were able to stand firm, strive through to get to that height, to share with us, to inspire us to also get to whatever height we want to do. Those who want to get into the academia and those who want to go to the job field, how best we can continue.
Yeah, I'll be very happy to do another video for you, particularly if you pay me a little bit, but I'll be happy to share my experiences as well at the appropriate time, should people want to see that. But thank you for inviting me and for sharing some of my thoughts. I appreciate it.
Sure. So thank you so much, Prof, once again. So
You're
guys,
welcome.
Tada energy, peace out, bye bye.